Welcome, welcome to Freaked Out with your psychic medium host, Liz. Today, I will be your guide through all the twists and turns of today's episode. And as a psychic, I'm here to provide a unique perspective, one that goes beyond the drama on the screen. Today, we're going to be diving in deep with this family's dynamic, exploring the hidden energies and all the secrets that people may not even realize they are keeping. And of course, all of my predictions of what lies ahead. Will Kody's control continue to crumble? Are the unforeseen forces pushing these relationships out? Stay with me to uncover the unusual and fascinating details of the show SISTERWIVES. Trust me, the answers may surprise you because they certainly surprised me. Get comfortable and open your mind, and let's unravel the mystery behind SISTERWIVES. The truth is never as simple as it seems. Now, there are a lot of people in this family, so we're going to be covering part 1 today. This episode was actually supposed to be recorded last week, but as you can tell by my voice, I've been a little bit under the weather, and I'm still in the recovery mode side of it. Now, there are so many things that they do not talk about on this show for many different reasons. I believe initially when this first came out on television, they were trying to kind of show us the fundamentalist Mormon side of things and, 19 kids and counting. It was something to show people like, hey, it's okay. This is a normal family dynamic. But this show doesn't show you everything. I mean, it shows the struggles of the family to a degree. I also want to put out there that this has nothing to do with any other people that are fundamentalist Mormons. This is just specifically in relation to this family that have put themselves out there for years. And if you notice, the problems didn't even happen really until Meri stepped out of this relationship and started to pursue other relationships herself. And it was almost like that thread that you pull and everything else just became unraveled. Now, it took this family a while before we could see the big cracks. The little ones were there, but the bigger cracks, of course. And again, no judgment, no hate, just spitting out facts and predictions. Now, this show, SISTERWIVES, enjoys talking about the benefits of being in a sister-wife relationship. But there are a lot of things that they don't talk about because it doesn't look pretty. So this family does believe in patriarchy. So regardless of what the women want, Kody is ultimately the deciding factor. Even if every single wife was like, I'm not down for this, he really has that final say one way or another. I know he likes to communicate with the women and tell them like, hey, this is what I want to do, as stupid as it may be. And most of the time, one of the women will agree. 3 usually need a little bit more convincing. But in reality, if he, let's just say, wanted to move somewhere, it's his choice. He can tell them, they can be pissed off, but he gets the deciding vote there. And he is the leader, and he expects the women to obey. Even if they fight about it, in the end, he expects them to be like, okay, you're done your bitching, this is happening. Now, these wives are to be dressed modestly. And they do dress fairly modest, but there are times where they'll wear short sleeves. I see them all wearing makeup, but then again, they're on television. So more likely than not, thus the reason that they do put on the makeup. But also they had that SISTERWIVES closet, which was in relation to jewelry, and that's kind of frowned upon too. So I'm a little confused about that aspect. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. Now, they are not allowed to have drugs or alcohol or anything along those lines. I don't necessarily think that's a bad rule. I mean, to each his own. I'm not a drinker. If I drink something, it's usually on some sort of holiday, and even then. Some people can handle alcohol and drugs and others cannot. They're not allowed to have sex until married, which, I mean, fairly common practice amongst many religions. But then what ends up happening is a lot of the time people will rush down the aisle because they want to have sex, be adults, and then they regret it instantly. Now, I Don't know if Kody's family is currently practicing this, but I do believe they did at one point. But you're actually supposed to give 10% of your paycheck to the church. And again, I just don't currently see him funding anybody at the moment. Maybe there's an agenda or some particular person that they may be practicing under that they are sending off payments to. But as a whole, I just don't feel like that's happening at the moment. In my opinion, I don't know. I get that you have to fund the church, but is it really the people's responsibilities to keep it going? Isn't that really the church's responsibility to keep preaching and getting more people? I think that $10 a week should be sufficient enough, if at all. And of course, the outlined rules for men and women are always different. Women's rules, obviously, childbearing. A lot of young women really enjoy, which is probably another reason that women kind of agree to this, because they get to have that illusion of staying home with their children, cooking, cleaning, doing all that wonderful stuff, and they don't really have to work. But in reality, being a mom is much, much tougher than that. And I think they realize that once they get to about that midway mark and mental health starts becoming a bigger issue and it's ignored half the time, most of the time, really, it's quite sad. It's also part of the woman's journey to support their husband's spiritual journey, whatever that means. That's just a fancy sentence to make it seem like you just do what your husband does, regardless of how ridiculous it sounds. Careers come second, unless you have it set up where one of the wives is the homemaker and then one of the wives take care of all the kids. I could only imagine. I believe Christine actually ended up watching a majority of Janelle's children when Janelle would go off to work. And I can even imagine watching 12 kids day in and day out. Now, when it comes to men's rules, I mean, they don't really have one. Men are seen as the priesthood holders. They are responsible for protecting and leading their family. And they lead their children, obviously, financially, spiritually. So in reality, again, the women come second. And I don't like that. I think that we, as a society, need to evolve. A man should never be higher than a woman. We should all be on equal playing fields, one way or another. Now, they are also told to stay away from the mainstream media, which is another reason that you'll notice the kids getting rejected from certain Mormon religions because of how public this family has become. And a lot of their religion, a lot of people within are not happy about it. The reason that they're told to stay away from mainstream media is because people can be easily influenced, which means women start thinking on their own like, okay, I don't see that. Wow, I used to think this, now I don't. For instance, Christine. Christine, you can see it through the seasons where she no longer wants to have a specific lifestyle. She got comfortable with the home that she had without being in the same home as everybody else. And in her mind, she didn't believe in a lot of what they think she should have believed in, which was probably something that she and Kody should have talked about, but never did. Once these women started to see, hey, I don't need to do this, that, and the other for my man. I'm going to get out there in the world. That is exactly what this faith is concerned about. Influence by others. Now, when it comes to the medical side, although they don't completely reject medical assistance, they try everything they can before they get to that point, which I mean can lead to more complications. I feel as though the Browns also follow that as well. I just get this vibe from them that they keep going until they need to go to the hospital. And I feel like we saw that with Truly and Isabel and even Madison when giving birth to her son. I feel like there was an unnecessary amount of time where she was in labor waiting for this child to come out. And in my opinion, needed medical assistance that she never got. And I'm not knocking home births by any means. I feel like home births are great, but in medical situations, we got to get them to the hospital. And I think that needs to be a priority. When it comes to Isabel, I think that was probably a big, significant turning point for Christine, even before we got to the point where Kody didn't go to her surgery because of the COVID stuff. I keep seeing that Isabel was struggling and wanted this surgery so bad. And from what I can see, Kody kept dismissing it like, no, we don't need that. And I see that Christine went along with it, and she feels a lot of guilt from that now. And she should have gotten help much earlier, because I think that Isabel suffered unnecessarily for years after the fact because they were trying to avoid the surgery, which I get to a degree, but I also think that they went against medical recommendations, and this poor kid suffered unnecessarily for years on end. Now, I had not watched the show for a few years because, to be frank, I thought it was rather boring, and I had a very hard time watching something that I don't feel like they were all being completely honest about. They didn't talk about the ins and outs or give us all the details. Now that seems to be changing a little bit more each time I watch the show. We're going to talk about the wives, starting off with Meri, because she's wife number one. Now, back in the day when I watched this show, Meri drove me bonkers. I just feel like she had such a defensive attitude, and she just always wanted the lap of luxury for herself and really didn't put anyone else's thoughts or considerations into it other than Robin, at least at the beginning. And then when people would address her like, why do you need such high-end stuff? Why do you have to be the center of attention? Why do you need this, that, and the other? Why do you feel like you're queen? She was number one wife, so she felt like, hey, I deserve this. I've been with him the longest. And I also believe that she did it because she felt like it was owed to her. For years on end, her relationship with Kody was not good. The relationship between all of them were not good, but this one in particular started first. And they had a lot of deep-rooted issues that they just continued to keep on ignoring. And she felt as though Kody owed her the world. She didn't care who it hurt. And she didn't consider the other kids. The only child I really believe that she really considered was her own child, Leon. Now let's talk about the first situation, which was the catfishing situation. A lot of people have asked, why was Leon so angry when it came to Meri in this situation? Well, I'll tell you. As much as Meri is trying to keep the details off the internet, and again, taking that victim approach to this situation, they didn't really talk about the romantic side of things. They wanted to focus on what Meri wanted to focus on, because she didn't want to talk about the situation unless it was talking about how she was being taken advantage of. And let's talk about this. I see that Meri and Leon were in the home all the time, and she was smiling at her phone, flirting, talking on the phone to this guy, talking about some pretty risque things considering the religion she's attached to. I do believe she had phone sex with this person. I believe a lot happened. She shared a lot of the deep, dark secrets about the family, about the dynamics, her issues with Christine, her issues with Robin, her issues with Janelle, everybody, Kody, you name it, the kids. She just shared everything you can possibly share, which is why Meri was so scared about the blackmailing situation, because in that moment, Meri realized, oh my God, this person knows literally everything about me and can expose my entire family. I believe that Meri had actually physically started off by going on an online dating app. I don't know where it led to, but I see that she was looking for love and romance. I would say that she actually communicated with a few gentlemen in relation to having something romantic. I don't necessarily think that she put her photo out there to share in the dating world, but then I believe that once she started talking online, this is when this woman decided to catfish her. She was answering questions. I believe that this woman who was pretending to be a man was also messaging her from other accounts too, just to see if she would respond. And she did, which is where this whole fake profile came from. They did not believe. Now let's talk about this person that catfished them. They do not believe in what Meri believes in. They were hoping that they would be able to pull Meri out of that situation, but also like be the reason that this show came undone. I believe that there were a lot of sexual conversations, and I think Leon heard a lot of that. And instead of being truthful with the family, like, yeah, I fucked up. I was thinking about cheating. I wanted to have a relationship. In fact, I had an emotional affair with somebody who was catfishing me, but she took zero responsibility for that. The only focus Meri wanted to focus on was the fact that she was catfished and nothing else. And I think that's where her relationship issues with her child came from. And from what I can see, Leon was trying hard to say, Mom, you gotta stop this shit. And she was like, I'll do what I want to do. And she didn't care. She was getting attention. She felt sexy. She just felt alive again. Something that Kody hadn't made her feel in forever. And then Kody, obviously a blow to his ego, because he can just have as many wives and also potential flirtation mances. We'll talk about that later. But she was not allowed to have anything outside of this very small, one time a week relationship that she had. I actually don't fault her for looking outside of her relationship. I just think that she needed to take an approach that was different and then own it. Because, yeah, I'm getting the shit end of the stick. Just say it. Tell us all, yeah, Kody's not touching me. Everyone hates me. I'm getting no relationship. I'm not getting sex. I'm not getting anything. I'm alone all the time. I bitch about how I don't have kids, but I don't really want any more kids. I want to get laid. That's what she should have done, but she didn't. Instead, she decided to take the approach of, oh, I was a victim, when in reality, she was not. Was she a victim of catfishing? Absolutely, but she started this whole thing. I also believe that there were men within the church that she was flirting with as well, but because they were like, you're with Kody, I don't think so, she got rejected often. Now, when it comes to Kody, like I said, I don't blame her for cheating, because he was really bad to her. He told her he wasn't attracted to her anymore. He told her he didn't want this, that, and the other with her. They weren't sleeping together. They were certainly not sleeping in the same bed. There was more of a bond with Leon than there was with Meri. And then Meri would basically blame it all on the fact that I didn't have more kids. From Kody's perspective, in his mind, although I don't necessarily agree with it, he looks at it like Meri was his most difficult wife to deal with, which, okay. And then he looked at Meri like he wasn't attracted to her anymore. He looked at Meri like she didn't want to be part of the bigger spectrum of the family. And in reality, he had a very low-key relationship with her. In fact, a lot of the other wives' stuff would come first. He would push her on the back burner. Well, you don't have the kids. Well, you don't have this. Well, you don't have that. And that really fucked with her heavily. So she had this huge resentment towards all the women and the kids because they all took Kody away from her. For example, when all of this was happening, she wasn't invited to Madison's delivery, which, I mean, that was a big issue because Madison and her didn't really have a good relationship. I feel like she doesn't really have a good relationship with any of the kids. Maybe a couple of Robin's kids, but even then, I think that the relationship is completely strained now. She was sending this woman photos of herself naked as well. And I believe one day those pictures are going to surface. Here's the other big piece of this. The show doesn't show this because they wanted to make it seem like Meri came at her own will. But I believe that Robin and Kody had been concocting this plan, if you will, to bring up to Meri that they wanted the children to be adopted by Kody. And I think they were planting those seeds from the moment that Robin came into the family. And I think they would often bring it up like, oh, if only Kody was really the kid's father, then we wouldn't have to do this, that, and the other. And I think that's when they started to come to Meri a lot heavier over the last couple of years, saying, look, I'm going to have to divorce you. I'm going to have to marry Robin, and that's the way it's going to be. Obviously, Meri was offended by it and then reevaluated and then came back and was like, yeah, let's do this. Now, Robin and Kody are pretending that they are not legally married. They didn't want to focus on the day. They didn't want to celebrate it, which I think is all bullshit. They wanted to be married. They wanted to have that legal marriage. Regardless of the adoption situation, they wanted that and they wanted to keep it that way. And I believe that caused a big rift between Meri and Robin and Kody, obviously, as well. So Meri, at this point, down on her luck, she said, fuck it, I don't even care at this point. Let's just do it. She was getting enjoyment from her catfish person, so she didn't care anymore. I believe that Meri brought it up to him on how she was not happy about this, and he basically told her he didn't really give a shit. My issue with Meri is that she is somebody who backpedals constantly backpedaling. And honestly, I didn't necessarily understand, but from her perspective now, watching back, yeah, I get it. When we are in situations that are out of our control, we do crazy things. And perhaps maybe if Kody had actually conditioned this relationship a lot more than he did, I don't think that it would have gone to a bad place. I think that her and Janelle would have even had a better relationship. I think Kody initiated a lot of those issues as well. I think that Janelle wanted to come in with a supportive energy to be a sister wife, and Meri just shut her out completely. And then when Janelle started having all those kids and then, nothing was happening for Meri, it was just a really traumatizing thing. So he played them against each other. That's how I feel. Meri is definitely the most secretive sister wife, at least at the moment. But we'll talk about Robin and her stuff on the next episode. Obviously, then she decided that she wanted that B&B, and I think that's when she stopped giving a shit. I believe that Meri was looking for a way out, regardless of how she's saying it in the family. She wanted that business, but she also just wanted something to fall back on. I really believe that she felt like everything was about to spiral out of control, and she said, hey, let me get my piece of this cake now. When it comes to Meri, I do believe that she's already seeing somebody. Now, don't quote me on this. I haven't looked it up yet, but I do feel like there's going to be someone who she brings out. He's going to be at least 10 to 15 years younger than her, and he's going to have a pretty out there personality. I believe that she will definitely stay away from the public eye with this relationship, but he'll be interested, and I see him being someone who pulls her out of her darkness and angry energy, and I think that Meri will be a much better version of Meri here to come. Now moving right along to Janelle, Janelle being wife number 2. I have always loved Janelle. She and I had the most in common, I'd say. She was the working mom. I was the working mom. She would go off into the abyss and get the dough for her family, as did Kody, which is why Christine watched all the children. Now, obviously, their more recent separation happened in 2022 when she couldn't handle his condescending, controlling ways. And from what I can see, Kody has always been this person, but he put on a big display for the whole world to see. But now he doesn't care how anyone perceives him. So he doesn't care. He will be a jerk even more. Egotistical, self-absorbed human being. And I think that he's always been aggressive, but I feel like the show just made him more and more cocky, and he became more and more aggressive towards all of the women, including Janelle. Now, Janelle was the woman, the wife that was more, she wasn't going to sweat over the small stuff. She was a very calm energy, and he would agree with her quite often, especially when it came to the financial decisions. She looked at the family like a business prospect, and I feel like Janelle absolutely loved the dynamic. She loved having all the kids, the family, more antisocial than, say, Christine would be. But Janelle a very good person. I don't have a bad thing to say about her. She was the only one who was interested in purchasing the property and building upon this huge property, a big, big house. But no one else wanted that, but she was down with it. Now, I believe that Kody used Janelle a lot. There's not an overly sexual relationship. They did have that at the beginning before the baby making side of things started, but I believe that their relationship was more transactional, less romantic. I also believe that he would use Janelle as the pawn of reason, and I think that that was the biggest piece of things with him and Janelle. He would say, yep, my girl is okay with that. So because Janelle's okay with it and because she's financially responsible like I am, we're going to do this. He would use her a lot, and I feel bad for her. He would often fill Janelle's mind with, she doesn't like you. She's a difficult person. Don't try to talk to her. Leave her be. And he caused this intentional drama so that both wives looked at him like he was, God's gift to man, and then they would fight each other, which only improved their relationship with Kody, and they didn't even see who he was until much later. Now, when Janelle came into the picture, he would talk nonstop to Meri about how amazing she was and how wonderful she was and how she gave him so many babies, and he talked her up big time, and Meri fucking hated it. And she was jealous. Kody loves it. Kody loves when the wives fight each other because they're not fighting him. Now, as time progressed, Janelle actually accused Kody of making false claims about the family's financial situation to basically pin the monetary issues on her, as he always did in their relationship. But she really stopped and realized what the hell he was doing. In Kody's mind, he's giving his wives all this beautiful life and that they should just shut up and deal with it, regardless of all the drama he's spinning. Now, obviously, Janelle's biggest tragedy was the beginning of this year, in March, when her son Garrison had committed suicide. I can only imagine the way she felt. I know that Garrison had a lot of mental health issues, and there were drug-related use going on, and there was drinking going on, there were suicidal tendencies. But I don't want to blame anyone outrightly here, but I really believe that Kody is a huge piece of this. I feel like Garrison kept asking for Kody's approval in a way, and I see that Kody just kept rejecting him over and over and over again. I even feel like a couple of days prior to this happening, he had reached out to Kody. And again, I feel like Kody gave him the same stuff he always gave him. I believe that Garrison felt like Kody was harder on him than other children, and I believe that as well. Even his son-in-laws. Kody would treat some of his son-in-laws better than he would treat Garrison. And Garrison felt like it was his fault. I see that he would talk to his brother, maybe Hunter, about this. They had a pretty good relationship, but ultimately he kept a lot of this inside too. There's a lot we're going to cover with him, but I want to put out there that Janelle did everything she could. She really blames herself for the death of her son, and I mean, we all would. I would. But Janelle was a good mom. She did what she needed to do to take care of her children. She did her role well, and she's trying to be more of that family mom now, where she couldn't necessarily do it too much because the family did rely on her to be that financial support as well. He loves his mom so much. There's not one thing he could say about her. I think that his mother was truly the only person he stopped and thought about during this whole process. But he did it anyway, and I think that's his biggest regret, not communicating with his mom. There was a lot of jokes made about Garrison by Kody. It's one thing to hear it from the public, but it's another thing to hear it from your own father. Garrison was one of the kids in the middle, wasn't really paid attention to one way or another. There was a lot of behavioral issues with that child throughout the years, and there was a cry for help. And I do believe Janelle tried her absolute hardest, but Kody did not. Kody continued to bully and bully and bully, and he always had these cockfights with his sons for whatever reason. Now, when it comes to Janelle, I don't know if she's going to look for romance. I think she wants a companionship, but I think she's going to keep it very privately. I believe there's going to be a man that she meets through Christine, through David, whoever she can find, but there will be somebody and it will be in the background. I don't necessarily think she'll come out publicly and say anything, but I think this person and her will have a very romantic private relationship eventually. She's also going to have a pretty extraordinary weight loss journey. And I also see not surgery. I don't feel like she's going to have surgery, but maybe some sort of procedures for like Botox, lip fillers, that kind of stuff. But we're going to see a totally new Janelle, and I even feel like she's going to change up her hair color. Obviously, she's going to have more grandkids coming her way, so she'll have a very distracted life. And her relationship with Christine will just get that much better. We're going to see a lot of those two shenanigans. They will always be each other's sister wives, from what I can see. Now, this is everything for today's episode. Again, we will be back most likely in the next couple of weeks to drop part 2. But I did want to mention that we are dropping a Gypsy Rose episode to talk about her book. And I want to talk about all the details, all the ins and outs of what I feel to be truth and facts. A lot of people are saying that it's not the same as what she said previously, and she keeps changing up her story. Well, we're going to dive into it, and I cannot wait to share my findings on it. Until next time, guys, stay freaked out.